All right, so let's start with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour. All eyes are on the ceasefire deal between Israel and Gaza. Now, in the latest, this is what the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's office has said, that an agreement to secure the release of hostages in Gaza will take effect only after receiving a cabinet approval in the state of Israel. Hamas has said that the IDF must retreat, that is, withdraw from the Palestinian territory before the hostages are freed. This comes even as the American President Donald Trump has announced that Israel and Hamas have agreed to the first phase of the Gaza deal involving the exchange of hostages and Palestinian prisoners, with a swap set to happen within the next 72 hours of the deal's implementation. In a post on Truth Social Network, Trump said that all of the hostages will be released very soon and that Israel will withdraw its troops to an agreed-upon line, calling it the first step towards a strong, durable and an everlasting peace. Now, Trump received a note during the White House meeting saying that a Gaza deal was very close and seeking his approval for a social media post. Very close, said the note handed to Trump by the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, seen by an AFP photographer who was also in the room. Now, the Israeli Prime Minister's office has said that Netanyahu spoke with the American President Donald Trump and the two had what is being described as a very emotional and apparently a warm conversation, congratulating each other on this historic achievement of signing a ceasefire deal. Netanyahu said that it will convene the government on Thursday to approve the agreement and will bring home all the hostages that are currently in the custody of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Now, the mother of the Israeli hostage, Matan Zankar, has celebrated the imminent return of her son. His sister, Natalie, lit fireworks at the hostages square in Tel Aviv.
They're coming back. Thank you to the people of Israel, to the soldiers. Thank you to President Trump. Thank you to all who helped bring my son and the hostages back. We won't stop. We won't stop fighting till the last hostage. Matan is coming home.
Now, Hamas has said it has given the list of the Palestinian prisoners who are to be released by Israel in exchange for the hostages. A source within the group has told AFP that Hamas will exchange about 20 living hostages for 2,000 Palestinian prisoners as part of the first phase. A source familiar with the negotiations has further said that the exchange will happen within 72 hours of the implementation of the agreement, which is expected to be signed on Thursday. Now, Hamas called on Trump and the guarantor states to compel the state of Israel to fully implement the ceasefire and not to allow it to evade or to procrastinate in implementing what has been agreed upon. The Palestinians in Khan Yunis, or what is left of Khan Yunis, came out in the streets to celebrate the announcement of the ceasefire. The crowds gathered near the Nasser hospital, clapping and cheering in what one Palestinian described as a historic moment. All right, now joining us on the broadcast, we've got Mr. Chris Doyle, who's the Director Council for British Arab Understanding and the current lead spokesperson for Kabul. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Doyle, for joining us here on WION. In your assessment, what do you make of this deal that has been forged? Do you think this is likely to succeed?
I think that the momentum is very strong now to get to these crucial stages. That I think we will get a ceasefire. I think that there are votes in the Israeli cabinet to approve it. I think there will be aid, which of course is backed up at the borders with Gaza and has been for months and months into Gaza to address the famine. That will take a long time, but it's very welcome. And of course, a release of hostages and Palestinian detainees. I think these were steps that largely all parties were broadly in agreement with and had to happen. It's so welcome it is because the suffering of those people in Gaza, the suffering indeed of those who have loved ones being held by one of the other parties, is unimaginable. I mean, 2 years this has gone on for. So, of course, everyone is hopeful. We hope that those hopes are fulfilled.
Right.
But me also be very clear that going beyond this is going to be much tougher, because as soon as you get away from those three key ingredients, you enter into terrain where there is not consensus, where there is not agreement on the disarming of Hamas, who rules Gaza, the future governance, on issues of accountability. All of these things are very much up for grabs, and the proposals that were announced by Trump and Netanyahu don't really address that, or at least not in a way that is workable, that give Palestinians agency over what will happen in Gaza going forward. But I think today obviously is a moment to try and hope that we are beginning to get out of the horror, the genocide that has been visited upon Gaza.
All right. Now, one can be cautiously optimistic, but do you think everyone concerned here is on the same page? Because Hamas says that the Israelis must withdraw out of the Gaza Strip once or before the hostages are released. Now, the Israeli position is that there is a certain position to which they will withdraw, while they'll continue to remain in what would be a security or a buffer zone. And more importantly, can Donald Trump be the guarantor for this deal? Because this is effectively his deal.
Well, firstly, my understanding is that Hamas have called for an Israeli full withdrawal, but it wouldn't be immediate. It's not one that they are expecting imminently as soon as the hostages are released. But within the Trump-Netanyahu proposals, there's no guarantee of a full Israeli withdrawal. It envisages 3 redeployments within Gaza, eventually after the 3rd redeployment to the Israeli self-declared buffer zone within Gaza. So it doesn't bring the occupation to an end. So I think Hamas understands that's going to be the case, but it's insisting on guarantees that eventually that this does happen, that eventually all Israeli forces are out. And on that, there isn't a meeting of minds. But I don't see this as something that is going to stop the implementation of those first few key steps to get a ceasefire, hostages, detainees out and aid in. So I think, really that will happen. As for the role of Donald Trump, well, yes, this is his deal. You're absolutely right. He's making some very bold claims about eternal peace and all the rest of it. He clearly wants to get his hands on a Nobel Peace Prize, which will be, funnily enough, announced, I think, tomorrow. But to be honest, this is just a ceasefire deal. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We haven't even got into the implementation stage of that.
Absolutely.
So we're a long way from peace, but Donald Trump has the ability, given, he's the president of the most powerful country on earth, a key backer of Israel, to insist and cajole the parties to adhere to this agreement, working with allies in the region and elsewhere. So, yes, he can play a very positive role.
Indeed. And just to make it clear to our audience, the ceasefire deal will be implemented by Israel only once the cabinet approves it. That is yet to still happen. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Doyle, for joining us with all that perspective there. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.